Mexico have a player who is not normal, and under the spell of Gilberto Mora, a 17-year-old kid who plays like he has already seen football 10 years into the future, this Mexican national team might genuinely have a chance to do something it has never done before at a World Cup.
Oye, Gil, ¿y si sí?
¿Y por qué no? ¿Y por qué no? Sí, no. Nosotros vamos a darlo todo para alcanzar el objetivo que tenemos.
Because Gilberto Mora sees things other players simply cannot see. He plays passes before the space even exists. He receives the ball like the pressure around him is happening in slow motion. And that left foot looks like it belongs to a generational talent. But the most ridiculous part is not just the quality, it is the age. Gilberto Mora Jr. has now become the youngest player ever to start a match for the Mexican national team at 17 years and 253 days old, surpassing Manuel Rosas, who held the record at 18 years and 87 days. And it gets even crazier. The Club Tijuana wonder kid also became the youngest player to start a World Cup match since Nigeria's Femi Opabunmi, who did it at 17 years and 101 days back in 2002. So we are not talking about normal hype here, we are talking about historic precocity.
Sí, Mora. Con 17 iba a tener planteamiento. Yo lo entiendo perfectamente. Quiero decirte que Mateo, Obed, Gil, tienen 20, 21, 19, 17, yo qué sé. Pero más allá de eso, están preparadísimos.
Mora Jr. keeps breaking records like they were made for him. Youngest player to debut in Liga MX. Youngest player to score in Mexican football. Youngest player to score and assist in Liguilla. Youngest player to win an international tournament with Mexico. And now, in his first World Cup start against Czechia, he played like none of it was too big for him. He showed incredible personality. He played with a maturity that makes absolutely no sense for his age. And he was decisive in 2 of Mexico's 3 goals, with precise passes, perfect timing, and the kind of decision-making you normally expect from a veteran, not a 17-year-old kid carrying a nation's creative hopes. The stage did not scare him, his legs did not shake, he did not hide, he did not play safe. He responded like a footballer with years of experience at the highest level. Mexico have a jewel in their hands. And the scary part is that this was not just one good game. Just 2 years ago, Gilberto Mora was making his Liga MX debut. 1 year ago, he was lifting the Gold Cup with Mexico, starting all 3 knockout stage matches, and even producing an assist at the level of something you would expect from Lionel Messi. Then he went to the Under-20 tournament and looked levels above almost everyone on the pitch, finishing with 3 goals and 2 assists. And now, at just 17 years old, he has already produced 10 goals and 2 assists at professional level with Club Tijuana. Real Madrid want him, Barcelona want him, and after this World Cup, trust me, they will not be the only ones standing in line, because his talent is special. South Africa could not control him. Czechia could not control him either. And right now, Javier Aguirre has just completed Mexico's best group stage in World Cup history. 9 points from 9, 6 goals scored and 0 goals conceded. But beyond the perfect record, beyond the clean sheets, beyond the numbers, the real victory for El Tri is something much bigger. Gilberto Mora has shown he is ready to lead the creative game of this national team, and that might be the difference. Not just for one match, not just for one tournament, but for the future of Mexican football. Don't believe me? Take a look at this. The FIFA World Cup is the biggest sporting stage on the planet, and more than anything, it is the perfect place for young players to announce themselves to the world, because history has already shown us that teenagers can arrive at a World Cup as promises and leave as global superstars. Pelé did it in 1958. At just 17 years old, he arrived at the tournament with a knee injury and missed Brazil's first 2 matches. But once the knockout rounds began, he produced one of the greatest breakout performances football has ever seen. In the quarter-finals, he scored the only goal in a 1-0 win over Wales, becoming the youngest goal scorer in World Cup history. In the semi-finals, he destroyed Just Fontaine's France with a hat-trick in just 23 minutes. And in the final against Sweden, he scored twice in a 5-2 victory, including that iconic goal where he flicked the ball over a defender inside the box before finishing with a volley. That was not just a breakout, that was the birth of a legend. Then came Kylian Mbappe in Russia 2018. At 19 years old, Mbappe was not just part of the France team that won the World Cup. He became the weapon that made Didier Deschamps' side terrifying in transition. Against Argentina in the round of 16, he produced one of the most explosive performances of the modern era. He scored twice and won a penalty after that ridiculous run from his own half, sprinting at more than 30 kilometers per hour and tearing Argentina apart. Then, in the final against Croatia, he scored again and became the first teenager to score in a World Cup final since Pelé in 1958. 4 goals, best young player of the tournament. That is the level of impact we are talking about. So the question now is obvious. Who is going to be that player this summer? Because the amount of young talent at this World Cup is absolutely absolutely ridiculous. You have already established names like Jude Bellingham, who has already scored at the tournament. You have Ryan Cherki, one of the most spectacular players on the planet. You have Ayub Boadi, who completely dominated Brazil in midfield like he had been playing World Cup football for 10 years. You have Yan Diomande, a player Ecuador and Germany could only watch from behind as he ran past them again and again. You have Lamine Yamal, who already has his goal and already feels untouchable despite his age. You have Endrick, probably Brazil's most dangerous player every time he comes off the bench. You have João Neves, absolutely essential to Roberto Martinez's Portugal. You have Pau Cubarsí, already one of the best centre-backs on the planet at a ridiculous age. You have Désiré Doué, the conqueror of Europe. And you have Nico Paz, the player who carried Como into Europe. Every single one of them is special. Every single one of them can break a match. Every single one of them looks like the future of football. But Gilberto Mora is shining with his own light, because he is not doing this in a comfortable environment. He is not doing this as a luxury piece in a team full of superstars. He is doing it at the most important moment for the Mexican national team. He is doing it in a World Cup hosted partly in his own country. He is doing it with the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders. And somehow, at 17 years old, he looks ready for it. In a country where football never stops producing hope, Gilberto Mora has arrived as an anomaly.
Pero para mí es muy inteligente, al margen muy inteligente. Y bien como dice él, para mí es el jugador importante que hoy tuvo México porque generó en el último tercio de la cancha.
Not because of where he comes from, not because of his body, not even because of how young he is. The anomaly is in the way he plays, in the way he sees the pitch, in the way he receives the ball. In this way he decides before everyone else even understands what is happening. The strange thing is not that Gilberto Mora is 17 years old.
Ahora y por primera vez vamos a traer a la sub-23 a entrenar. Hagan el mejor equipo posible de la sub-17, sub-19 y sub-23. Y incluyen a Gilberto. Nosotros jugamos una cosa que se llama fútbol de ubicación. El que juega el Manchester City con Guardiola y otros clubes, tratamos de jugar así. Y usted tiene un espacio de cuadrados donde usted tiene que estar ahí posicionado. Si usted me muestra que es capaz de jugar ahí, va a tener su oportunidad. Y él lo muestra y ahí no tuve ninguna duda. Este niño tiene que jugar porque es un lujo verlo en los entrenos cuando se complementa con los que entienden el juego como él. Eso es lo de él, no me pertenece a mí. Ahora, en lo que sí le hemos aportado mucho es tratarlo de ubicarlo en el campo donde él pueda mostrar todo su talento.
The strange thing is that sometimes he plays like he is 30. Born in Tuxtla Gutiérrez in 2008 and developed in the north of Mexico, thousands of kilometers away from his native Chiapas, Mora made his first team debut for Tijuana at just 15 years and 10 days old. That day, he became the third youngest debutant in Liga MX history, but that was only the beginning. A few minutes later, he produced an assist and became the youngest assister in the history of the competition. He did it wearing number 251, a number that looked like a simple academy tag, but with every passing game, started to feel more like the serial number of a prototype built ahead of its time. Just 1 year before that debut, Mora was still collecting minutes in youth football. At 14, he was already playing with Tijuana's under-19. In 2024, he played 826 minutes in the Apertura, 39% of the total available minutes, and then 54% in the Clausura 2025. Those numbers are already ridiculous for a teenager, but the impact was even bigger. Youngest goal scorer in the history of the tournament, starter in a Gold Cup semi-final, decisive assister to reach the final, and not just any assist. Against Honduras, Mora produced the kind of pass that only special players can see. First, look at the movement. He scanned the Honduran mid-block, identified the exact gap the opponent left, attacked it perfectly, and received the ball into space. But it was not just physical. Mentally, he was already one step ahead. With one movement, he left his marker behind. Then came the magic. Mora saw a passing lane when nobody else could see one, and slipped the ball perfectly into Raúl Jiménez, who finished the move for a brilliant goal. That is the thing with Mora. The records are impressive, but the real shock is his ability to play at the rhythm of big nights. In the Gold Cup final against the United States, with the stadium waiting to see if the kid would finally feel the pressure, he played with a 93% pass accuracy. No nerves, no unnecessary tricks, no panic, no mistakes. And by winning that tournament in 2025, at just 16 years and 265 days old, Gilberto Mora became the youngest footballer ever to lift an international title with Mexico. His status as a clutch player is becoming undeniable. Every big night, he appears. At the 2025 Under-20 World Cup, Mora looked like the best player on the pitch. Even though he was 2 years younger than many of the opponents around him, Against Brazil, he rescued Mexico late with an assist in the 85th minute. Then came his masterpiece against Spain. His first goal showed extraordinary composure. He received inside the box and calmly finished past the goalkeeper, like the pressure did not exist. Later in the same match, with Mexico desperately needing a result, Mora stepped up again. Minute 85. A perfectly struck volley, another equaliser, another rescue mission. Another reminder that he has one of the hardest skills in football, first time finishing under pressure. That goal kept Mexico's qualification hopes alive after 2 draws in their opening group matches. Then, in the round of 16, Mora produced another moment of pure quality. He controlled a long pass from midfield with his first touch, immediately became the provider, and laid the ball perfectly into the path of Tahiel Jimenez, who finished clinically. 5 goal contributions, 5 matches. And somehow, what he is doing at the World Cup feels even bigger. In his first World Cup start, he played like the most experienced player in the Mexican national team. 1 pre-assist, 2 key passes, 1 shot, 18 carries, 31 touches. It took him a little while to get into the game, but once he found his rhythm, his passing started to dismantle Czechia. In a football world that keeps getting faster and faster, Mora makes the ball run without needing to sprint himself. He starts from the left, cuts inside on his stronger right foot, combines in tight spaces, touches only when necessary, and carries the ball when the situation demands it. He is not a high-volume player, but when he touches the ball, the game becomes organised. When he carries, he drags defenders. When he turns, space appears. And that is exactly what happened against Czechia. Beyond the numbers, there are details that make his profile even more special. One thing he showed against Czechia that cannot be ignored is his ability to receive with his back to goal and turn in seconds. Every ball that reaches him has one intention: go forward. Mexico has almost never had a midfielder like that. In world football, there are very few players who think that way. And that match also showed something even more important. Mora is becoming the true conductor of El Tri. He drops to connect with the midfielders. He drags markers. He accelerates from interior zones. He breaks lines with his carries. He is not just a forward or a wide player. He is an enganche who decides how and when Mexico play. And when he receives in the number 10 zone, that is where the real magic appears. The speed with which he sees the opportunity and executes the pass is elite. Just look at the passes he produced against Czechia. First, the wall with Piojo Alvarado that broke the opponent's final line. Then the filtered pass to Romo, leaving him alone. It does not matter where Mora receives the ball, he will find the gap. His scanning gives him a 360-degree picture of the pitch, and because of that, he almost always makes the right decision. Mora thinks the game through, passing and carrying, and Mexico's second goal proved it. Gilberto picked up the ball from his own half, eliminated opponents with one movement, carried at a controlled rhythm, scanned the field, and saw Jorge Sanchez attacking the space behind the defensive line. Then he played the pass into the perfect zone between the defense and the goalkeeper. It was the kind of pass only Gilberto Mora can play in this Mexican team. The rest became chaos, a deflection, a carom, a Mexico goal. But the origin of the move was Mora's brain. This kind of performance is not normal. Mexico has never had a player quite like this. His football IQ is different. His composure is bigger than the Azteca. And he showed it not only against Czechia, but also in his World Cup debut, when he dared to do what others would not. Against South Africa, he went to ground fighting for a ball in midfield, got back up, and immediately produced a back heel with total meaning into Piojo Alvarado, who then assisted Raúl Jiménez in a move that almost ended with a penalty. Again, it started with Morita. In 2 matches, he has already forced opponents into triple marking him, because if they do not, his magic destroys them. He is a brain that keeps breaking matches even when the legs start to fade. We saw it at the Under-20 World Cup. We are seeing it now. He can adapt and appear in any zone of the pitch. As a left interior in a midfield 3, he also shines. He controls tempo, gives pause, accelerates when needed, and presses with intelligence. That is why the question is no longer whether Gilberto Mora is a promise. The question is how far this can go. Football is never an exact science, especially with teenagers. But there are signs, strong signs. Mora has not just emerged through numbers and highlights. He has emerged through patterns of maturity that make no sense for his age. His ability to read timing, stay calm under pressure, carry the ball with purpose, and detect space makes him one of the most serious projects Mexico has produced in the last decade. Barcelona have already offered him a trial, Manchester City have watched him closely. Real Madrid are following him with serious intention. And honestly, it makes sense. There are very few players with that mix of reading, technique, and cold blood at 17 years old. Of course, he still has to grow. Physically, because his body is still that of a teenager. Tactically, because he still plays in a team that does not always maximise him. Mentally, because early success can be heavy, but the most important thing is already there. He has his own game, a solid game, a clear game. He does not need 90 touches to stand out. He only needs to appear when the match demands it. And when it does, he responds. In Gilberto Mora, there is not just promise, there is present. He is not only the youngest player to make history, assist, score or lift the Gold Cup. He is a footballer who thinks the game through the pass, through the carry and through the space. He does not get blinded by the moment, he does not disconnect. He plays from a place of maturity that simply should not exist at 17. And that is why the World Cup has a serious Gilberto Mora problem.